Let's save some money today. Trade wars, inflation, interest rates. It is a never-ending battle to balance your budget right now. But these frugal tips actually work, and most of them can save you money right away. Getting straight into it with prevention is cheaper than the cure. Try to adopt a mindset that you do not give up on the stuff that you already own, especially the expensive things. Looking after what you already have, like preventing it from wearing out or breaking, fixing it where it needs it, may take a little bit more of your time, but it's worth it in terms of cost savings in the longer run. Going to save you potentially thousands. For example, if you don't regularly clear out the filters on your dishwasher, then eventually it's going to clog, it's going to stop working, it's going to become a bigger problem, and you're going to have to get a plumber around to fix it. Maybe if the problem gets even worse, then you have to replace it and get a whole new one, and the cycle starts all over again. Similar story with your washing machine. It has filters, they need to be cleaned regularly. Your car needs oil to run smoothly. Your gadgets need software updates in order to keep working. And also, don't forget your health. Looking after your teeth means that you avoid expensive dental bills, and looking after your personal health impacts your wealth as well. Eating healthily, getting regular exercise, these are things that are going to contribute to your physical well-being and your mental well-being too. That means that you're going to be able to work, you're going to be more productive, you're going to be able to enjoy your life more. On a much smaller scale to what I've just said, have a set of clothes for the dirty jobs that you need to do and the muddy walks. It's okay for these to get a little marked and stained and maybe a little bit ripped here and there, rather than allowing your entire wardrobe to be getting stained and marked and muddy on a day-to-day basis. So when you're cooking, try and put an apron on in order to protect your clothes from any sauce or oil splatter, and give your trainers and shoes a regular clean so that they still look as good as new and appealing to you to wear. That way you're going to be less likely to want to replace them. Just take a little bit of time to prevent the stuff that you own and need from falling into disrepair. What you want to do is try and avoid replacing these things that probably could last you for years and years more as long as you take care of them. When you make smart decisions to keep on top of maintenance, you save money. Next one is a bit of a surprising frugal tip, but sometimes spending money now is necessary. Frugality is not all about avoiding spending money. Frugality stops being frugal when we cut corners. That means that we end up spending more money later. One example of that is avoiding paying pet insurance. Now, choosing not to pay for pet insurance for your dog or your cat may well save you quite a lot of money now. Ours costs £20 a month. And if your pet never has any health issues, then you'll feel vindicated for having made that decision. But what if they do? The bills for a problem like a broken limb or a long-term health condition can run into the thousands. Another example of this is cheap shoes. Now, cheap shoes may be a necessity for your budget, but they're cheap for a reason. Ultimately, they fall apart, they're less comfortable. In my experience, it is worth spending triple the amount on shoes, like not buying the £20 trainers, buy the £60 or the £80 trainers. They last longer and they're more comfortable on my feet, which means I feel happier wearing them. This is much better than spending £20 on a brand new pair of shoes every 6 months. Another example of this tip working in action is with paying for annual bills such as insurance upfront all in one go, rather than paying monthly. When you pay monthly, you end up ultimately spending more. The next frugal tip is to stop sitting on a gold mine. It can feel frugal to hang on to things that we might need one day, and I totally get that. It makes sense because getting rid of them could potentially mean that at some point down the line, you might have to replace them, spend more money anyway. But often we cling on to things for years just in case we might need them someday, and someday never comes. Sometimes we could be sitting on hundreds or thousands of pounds worth of stuff and it's just gathering dust. It could be being used by someone else elsewhere and also making us a little bit of money. The other day I decided to purge some unworn items in my wardrobe and sell them on Vinted. I made £31.50 in just one morning. Then I decided to see if there was something constructive I could do with my children's old Amazon Fire tablets. I went onto Amazon and realised that I could just pass them back to Amazon completely free of charge to post, and I could get £40 for those. Try to challenge yourself to declutter and sell at least one thing every single weekend for a month. And then it's likely to become a habit that you keep doing once you realise how much money that you can make from the gold mine that you are sitting on in your very own home. Next, find a way to scratch the itch. We all get that urge to treat ourselves. A meal out, a trip away, a new dress, a brand new gadget, but these little treats can really add up. The trick is to give in just a little so that we scratch the itch, but we don't go way over the top and blow the budget. Instead of 3 courses at a restaurant, try just 1 course and no booze. Instead of blowing your budget on a whole brand new summer wardrobe, instead buy 1 or 2 key pieces that you're going to enjoy wearing this summer and next summer, and that work with the items in the wardrobe that you already have. What these new items should do is hopefully elevate the things that you already have to make you appreciate them in a brand new way. Having a little fun money is really important, but it has to be part of a balanced budget. It's just like with a balanced diet. Every month I set aside a certain amount that I'm allowed to spend on treats, such as takeaways or buying something like a new item of clothing that I've had my eye on. But then I also apply my frugal mindset to any decision making on that spending. So do I really want this? Is this really going to bring me joy? Do I actually want a takeaway tonight, or am I going to be perfectly happy with the dinner in the fridge? Do I actually need this new outfit, or have I actually got some really beautiful things already? Is there another more productive way that I can scratch this itch with the money that I can afford to spend? Identify what makes you happy. It really helps to identify the things in your life that really genuinely make you happy and really lean into those. Stop chasing the fake happiness that marketing and social media campaigns trick you into thinking actually matters to you, because really it doesn't. I used to be really driven by Instagram to buy things in terms of home decor and also clothes. When I took some time to just stop and really think about what I actually wanted my money to do for me, it was all about memorable experiences with the kids. Once you identify the stuff that is really, really going to make you happy, it makes it much easier to ignore all of the noise, all of those people desperately trying to convince you that this thing is going to make you happy. And we all know that all it does is lead to spending regret. Next, fixate on your goal. Mindless spending happens so much easier when you're also mindlessly saving. Let me explain. By mindless saving, I mean that you're saving here and there with not too much thought about what it's all for. You're managing to do it, so it feels like you're doing pretty well. And to be fair, any amount of saving should be applauded. It really should. But I find it much easier to save more and save consistently when I focus in on the reason why I'm being frugal. Why am I saving this money? And that way, any sacrifices or efforts I'm making are for a good reason, not just arbitrary things that make my life less fun. Let me give you an example. This year we are taking the kids to Disneyland, and it is not a cheap holiday, but it's a once in a lifetime trip for us. The kids are so excited, and so I have been super focused in the last 18 months on putting the money aside so that we can comfortably afford to do that. My low buy year last year and the low buy challenge I've been doing this year have been so much easier because I have had that idea fixated in my mind and I've obsessed over it, and I've reminded myself of it over and over again. So think of your why. Why are you saving? And just obsess over it. Because if it's something that you really, really want, I can guarantee you that it's going to help pull you back from the brink of impulse spending when you're looking at something, say a dress or a new top that you're kind of lukewarm over. Would you rather have that or this big goal that you've been working really hard towards that really, really matters to you? Next, budget for the year. Every month of your spending is not the same. My December spending looks vastly different to my January spending. June is when all of my car expenses come all at once. And then of course there's the summer holidays, August, which has all kinds of spending pressures associated with that. Each month comes with different pressures to spend more, or maybe even opportunities to spend less. So take the year as a whole when doing your budget. Looking at 1 month spending can be a really useful way to address your impulse spending and shopping habits, but it's not going to really necessarily help you balance your budget for the entire 12-month period. Consider all annual and monthly costs, including insurance renewals, Christmases, birthdays, holidays. Knowing where the pressures are going to fall will help you to squirrel away more money in months like January, where maybe you're spending a little bit less. And also the pressure to spend is much less in January because everyone is hyped up on doing no buy challenges in January. So hopefully you're not getting as many invites to go out. So use months like that, those quiet months, in order to set a little bit of extra money aside for those months that are a lot more expensive. December, I'm looking at you. The next tip is to eat less. Hear me out. I am not here to advise you on your diet. I'm just talking about what has worked for me. I'm definitely not talking about starving yourself here, but it is a fact that portion sizes have grown a lot over the last few decades. I personally found that we were piling up our plates at dinner time, and if it was a really nice dinner that we love, we were all going back for seconds, even though we were all feeling pretty full. Now I like to really deliberately take a portion for the next day to eat as leftovers and set it aside, so that it's not there as a free-for-all for people to go in and have some more. And I really try to be measured with what I put on the plate in the first place. Even if it's something small, like half a chicken breast that I've been able to put aside, I know that I can use that to make sandwiches the next day. Or it could be something big, like a portion of lasagna. As well as the dinners we eat, there are also so many snack options that I feel like the temptation to just graze all day is more than ever. The shelves of the snack aisle of the supermarket are absolutely overflowing with choice, but realistically, a lot of these do not provide any nutritional value at all for our children or ourselves. They would be better off, and your bank balance would be better off, if their mid-morning hunger was simply sated by a banana. Fact is, a lot of these foods are made super delicious, super tasty, to keep us going back in to eat more and more of them. It's not about hunger, it's about stimulating the pleasure sensor of your brain. Now, I am definitely not advocating that your family should go hungry. What I'm saying is, do you need to eat that additional spoonful of lasagna just because it tasted really good, or can you save it for tomorrow's dinner? Try shopping first or last thing in the day. With your local supermarket, find out when they add the yellow stickers or the discounts to the food that is about to go out of date, or the food that's less than perfect, that they're trying to get rid of. Some places do it first thing, some do it at the end of the day. Either ask a nice member of staff or just keep a lookout. What you don't ever want to do is buy these things without a plan to use them. Freezers can really become the dumping ground for these kind of foods that were bought with the best of intentions. So that's why this tip really works best when you really intentionally meal plan every single week, and you start that meal planning process with shopping your kitchen and your freezer and your fridge first. Any meals that you make should incorporate those things that you've already got in the house. And then you go to the supermarket and buy any additional ingredients that you might need in order to make a proper dinner out of those things. My next frugal tip is to have the same breakfast every single day. I know that variety is the spice of life and everything, but actually eating the same thing every single day removes the element of choice from your mornings. I don't know about you, but I hate making decisions first thing in the morning. I just want to go through all the tasks that I need to go through, getting the bags packed, getting everyone dressed, getting myself dressed, eating my breakfast. I don't want to have to think about all the different options. I just want to eat one thing. When you remove that choice, you buy less food. On a similar note, have the same dinners. Make a master list of 10 to 15 meals that your family absolutely loves. Things that you know that you can cook for everyone and everyone will eat it. Hopefully you can get to 10 to 15 things. I know it can be tricky with fussy eaters. When you have a go-to dinner list, it does a few sneaky things. You cut decision fatigue so that you're not staring at your fridge wondering what on earth to do at 5 p.m. You waste way less food because the ingredients you buy actually get used. And your grocery shop will be so much cheaper because you're buying intentionally and not randomly. Because you've got a small list of say 10 to 15 meals that you love to cook, it means that you'll definitely use up ingredients such as herbs and spices and jarred sauces and soy sauces that you've had to buy in order to put those meals together. You know, all those things that you only need a teaspoon of for the one meal, but if you eat that meal several times over the course of a month or 2 months, you'll definitely use up those jars, those herbs, those spices before anything goes out of date. Keep the list somewhere easy, such as in the Notes app on your phone. Then when you plan your week of meals, just pick from the list. You'll waste less, you'll spend less, and you'll have fewer of those conversations that begin with that dreaded question, what's for dinner tonight? Moving on now, use less with things like detergent, fabric softener, shampoo, conditioner, dish soap. Try to pour a little less, maybe even half of what you're used to using. What you're trying to do is make it go further. I know for a fact that when I free pour laundry detergent, I use way more. It goes way quicker than if I actually measure it out and I'm really intentional with how much of the product I'm using. Also, when you get to the end of a bottle of something, have a method. Some people like to cut into the bottle. Some people like to have a little spoon that they get in there. Whatever you do, have a method that means that you get right to the dregs so that you're using every single little bit up. Next, look for areas where you can downgrade. Your car, the convenience food that you buy every day, how often you get takeaways, the drinks that you have when you're out and about, the drinks that you have at home. Have a little look at where your money is going on the day-to-day and consider areas where you wouldn't mind a little downgrade in order to save money. For example, could you drink more water at home? Could you have fewer takeout drinks when you're out and about? Can you downgrade your number of streaming services from 2 to just 1? The car is the biggest potential win here. I never understand this thing of getting in a habit of buying a brand new car every single 3 years. You're just sort of stuck in this cycle where you buy this new car, it immediately loses 20% of its value within weeks of you having bought it, and you're locked into these huge monthly payments. The reality is that cars can survive after 3 years perfectly fine, as long as you look after them. So consider this as an area where you could possibly make some savings. Turn off vampire devices and lights. During the winter, if our kids are moving through the house needing to go to the bathroom or get something from their room, honestly, our house gets lit up like a Christmas tree. They are terrible at turning on lights and then leaving a room and not turning the light off again. So try to get all of the family on board with turning off lights when they leave the room, because you're going to spend less on electricity. And also try and get in the habit of switching off those devices that get left on standby. I'm thinking like your washing machine, maybe your dishwasher, definitely your TV. The microwave is another one. Next, use cashback, but with rules. Cashback is fantastic, and you should definitely be taking advantage of the apps that let you unlock cashback either via links or through buying gift cards for stores that you're going to buy stuff at, for example, supermarkets. But the ability to get cashback from a particular retailer should never be a motivator in a purchase. You should only ever use cashback on an item that you're going to buy anyway with money that you actually have in your budget. Plan for the worst. Sorry to throw what is a fairly cynical tip into what is otherwise, I think, quite an upbeat video. But the fact is, inflation and businesses increasing their prices is inevitable. So make sure there is room in your budget for those price increases. There should always be some things that you are happy to cut, some things that are easy saves, subscription services, maybe you're buying a little bit more luxury food, whatever it might be, there should always be some easy wins where you can make headroom in your budget to make way for those cost increases. Because unfortunately, wages are not keeping pace with the cost of living right now. It's the variable spending, the little extras that you're buying throughout the week where you could potentially make those savings. Try not to overcommit yourself and your budget to big things that wipe out any headroom that you might have. Another great frugal tip is creative solutions. If something emerges that requires spending, look for ways that you can achieve the highest possible return for the lowest possible cost. For example, my kids were really fed up with their bedrooms. They were saying that they were boring, they didn't like the decor, and they were even talking about the furniture being boring and saying they wanted brand new beds. You know, these ones where you have a desk underneath, they're like a huge construction effort. And I'd only just bought new beds a few years ago. These are really good single beds that should last them into their teenage years. So I didn't want to go about buying brand new furniture, but I get what they're saying. They want a little refresh of their rooms. So I've tried to think about what I could do for the lowest amount of money that would make the rooms feel fresh and different. So my youngest daughter picked out a shade of paint that she really loved. I managed to find some paint on discount, painted her room myself, so I didn't pay for anyone else to do that. And then I've also added some wall stickers to the wall as well and moved the furniture around in her room, and all of a sudden it feels like a completely different space. With my eldest daughter, I also got her some wall stickers and some new artwork for her bedroom wall. Much cheaper than having to buy new furniture, but this refresh has just made the rooms feel a little bit more updated and exciting. So wherever possible, try to come up with a creative solution to any pressures to spend. And that leads us nicely to the next tip, which is to make do. Try to get into the make do mindset where you use what you already have in order to achieve what you want. How can you solve a problem without spending any money at all? For example, say you're baking a recipe and the recipe requires baking powder, but all you have is bicarbonate of soda. These two things are similar, but they're not the same. But what you can do is Google ways in which you can use the ingredient that you do have as a substitute. It might involve changing the levels, the amounts in the recipe, but you can still make it work. If you're making dinner, what have you already got in that you can make do with? If you're reorganizing a cupboard, do you need to rush out and buy brand new pretty matching storage boxes, or can you make use of some things that you already have around the house? A shoebox can do the job just as well. Have a spend-free hobby. A no-spend weekend every month is a great way to cut back on impulse purchases and reset your spending mindset. Having a free hobby on standby helps you to avoid spending when you're bored. It could be games that your family loves to play together, a list of local walking routes that you want to explore, some YouTube yoga or some other kind of exercise, or a list of family-friendly movies that you want to watch. Shift your mindset from I need to buy something to I need to do something. Moving on, start saving for Christmas right now. There's still a few months to go until the big day, so you have a great opportunity to make a big impact on your Christmas budget right now. This way you can avoid the stress of struggling to keep up with the pressure to spend on Christmas. Take a look at what you spent on Christmas last year, divide that by the number of months remaining until the big day. That is how much you need to set aside every single month to make Christmas manageable so that all of that cost isn't falling in that final month. Next, cut back on vices. I do not want to deliver a moral lecture on alcohol, cigarettes and gambling. I've never smoked, but I've definitely partaken in the other two. However, spending on these vices really adds up. When you cut back, even say 20% of what you have been spending on that, those savings can really add up. Wash laundry cold. Just switching down to the coldest setting on your washing machine can save you money on your energy bills. And it's a similar story with line drying your clothes instead of using a tumble dryer. I find that bed sheets dry so insanely quickly at this time of year that it seems ridiculous to even consider tumble drying them. And the final frugal tip is to have a fixed daily rate. Figure out how much money you make per day and have that in your head and try and spend as little of that as possible. It can even help to have a proportion of that figure in your mind that you don't want to spend beyond. And even if you don't manage it, because say you have to spend a little extra on food that day, just aiming for that can be really powerful. It really helps to put impulse purchases into perspective. So say for example, you make £100 a day and during your lunch break, you're thinking about spending £30 in Primark on some clothes that you don't really need. Considering that as 30% of your daily income could just be enough to stop you from squandering your money in that moment. The way to take it even further to help you save more is to think, right, I want to save 20% of my income. So if you are making £100 a day, that'll be £20 a day. That leaves you with £80 a day. If you subtract that money off that daily rate that you've already got, it can just really help you to rethink the amount of money that you're spending on impulse purchases and focus you down on trying to save money on those variable expenses that you faced every day, such as food, buying drinks when you're out and about, and any other kind of shopping. I really hope that you found these frugal tips useful. I would absolutely love it if in the comments below you could leave your own favorite frugal tips and tricks. Let's help each other out.